Hello everyone, how y'all doing? Yakuza Kiwami 3 was finally announced. A part of me did consider watching the summit like live, but it was way too early in the day. It's like at 4 a.m. here in Portugal, so I had to wake up for work. There was no way I was gonna do that. Now here's the thing: there's a lot that I want to share about this, like quite a bit. But here's what I'll say: I'm fine with it. That's about it. I'm fine with Yakuza Kiwami 3, which, by the way, interesting that they're calling it Yakuza and not like a dragon, like they've been calling the recent entries. Because a part of me did wonder if they were just going to commit to the rebranding to like a dragon. But it does seem like they're still using the Yakuza brand, which, to be honest with you, like at this point, I know that like a dragon is technically speaking the most accurate like translation of the original Ryuga Gotoku title. But look, we've been playing these games as Yakuza. Like Yakuza has been the Western brand for like since 2005. It's not something that you can change easily. Everyone's used to saying Yakuza. Just accept it. You know what I mean? Like even as someone who tends to be super fucking elitist about having accurate translations, even I'm like, dude, just call it Yakuza. That's what everyone knows that. And honestly, the fucking Yakuza logo is really cool anyway. Um anyway, Here's the thing about Kiwami 3. A lot of people, like for years, honestly, they've been asking for Kiwami 3, but I've always had the stance that I don't think it's fucking necessary. And to be honest with you, till this day, I still don't think it's necessary. Because the thing is, you kind of have to understand the perspective of when the first two Kiwami remakes were came out. Because you need to understand the original Yakuza 1 and 2. First of all, those were PlayStation 2 games. They did get ported to PlayStation 3 as a collection of two games, as well as the Wii. So you can play on those specific platforms. But as far as like modern consoles at the time, preferably the fucking PlayStation 4, um, PC, and Xbox. Well, actually, at the time, they didn't even release Yakuza for the Xbox, so that's something. But anyway, as far as like the PlayStation 4, which to be honest with you, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox, they serve a pretty interesting role in the console sphere in the sense that they were the first. Well, I don't know if they were the first, but they were certainly like establishing the x86 standard for processors on consoles, and since then, I believe they will continue to add more to this CPU architecture. I'm sure the PlayStation 6 will also be based on x86, probably an AMD APU on it, and because of that, it makes backwards compatibility a little bit easier compared to in the past where they would just have like radically different CPU architectures, which would make backwards compatibility a bit of a fucking issue to the point where with the PlayStation 4, they didn't even really bother with backwards compatibility. They were like, yeah, we're not even gonna bother with that. And so yeah, I think having those two games remade, I think made more sense back then because you quite literally could not play Yakuza 2 and 3 on a modern device. Even on PC, like those games were never ported to PC, like the original Yakuza 1 and 2. But thankfully, the Kiwami remakes, they were indeed ported to PC. And additionally, um, I'm not someone who tends to be super demanding with graphics necessarily, but I will say that when you look at the visual direction of the modern Yakuza games at the time, what would you consider a modern Yakuza game? There's definitely a visual distinction between the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation 3. It does certainly exist. Like PlayStation 2, it's a different era of graphics. There, obviously, the PlayStation 3 did um, go through a bit of a leap in terms of the graphical fidelity. I still don't think that the leap was as big between the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2, but still, when you play PlayStation 3 games, it definitely does feel like it's, reaching a little bit more into that realm of like almost like full realism. Not exactly that, far from it, but still, like you could definitely look at like a lot of like PlayStation 3 games released at the time. They were like, damn, this is like movie like, and it's not. It doesn't feel the same with PlayStation 2, and with that being like the direction that they were going, I think porting the original PlayStation 2 games, which For the record, I would have been fine with it, to be honest. I've played Yakuza 1 and 2. I like those experiences, especially Yakuza 2. Those two are solid games, but I think that for the audience that, especially at the time, I think they were trying to capture a new audience because with the success of Yakuza 2, there was like an explosion of new fan. And granted, it wasn't just Yakuza 2. There was also even the previous entries. I think uh, the series as a whole did experience a few moments of explosions of new fans. Yakuza 0 was probably the biggest one. But still, like even with Yakuza 4 and 5, they did see an increase in the amount of fans, especially in the West. And I don't necessarily think that the Kiwami remakes were made specifically because of the West necessarily. It might not have been exactly for that, but it definitely is one of the things that contributes to them wanting to greenlight a remake specifically for Yakuza 1 because Yakuza 0 comes out. It's a 10th anniversary special where we see a prequel, and fuck, there's like new people that will likely get into the Yakuza series. What are they gonna do? They're gonna jump to Kiwami 1, direct sequel to Yakuza 0, as well as a remake of the original game. And then after that, Yakuza 6 did come out. But then after Yakuza 6, they made Kiwami 2 based on the Dragon engine. And again, newer audiences, they can experience the second game. Now, ideally, they would not play Kiwami 2 after Yakuza 6. If Yakuza 6 is like their third Yakuza game, you definitely do need to play the previous ones to get the full picture. But still, like it definitely did make a lot more sense. And also at the time, during the PlayStation 2 era, there were definitely some technological limitations. Like the open world was definitely a lot more limited compared to modern Yakuza games at the time. Like they had fixed camera angles. There weren't as many side missions to explore. It's certainly not as many mini games to explore compared to Yakuza 3, because I think it was in Yakuza 3 where Ryosuke Hori started to have a bit more involvement in the side content that ended up transforming the Yakuza series into the fucking side mission madness that it is today. And so even because of that as well, I think there are definitely more justifiable reasons for those Kiwami remakes to exist. But with Kiwami 3, I never personally felt like it was necessary. Like we got a remaster of Kiwami 3. Sorry, not Kiwami 3, of Yakuza 3. We got a remastered for the PlayStation 4. It was ported to PC. It graphically, it's not the same as Yakuza even 0, which is a PlayStation 3 game, technically speaking, but even Yakuza 0 looks dramatically, maybe not dramatically, that might be an exaggeration. It definitely does look better. Like, it definitely does feel like a late PlayStation 3 era game, back when I feel like developers were starting to, like, really understand the extent of the cell processor and like start to really take advantage of it to the point where sometimes it can almost feel like it can almost feel generationally better than some of the early PlayStation 3 games, which technically speaking Yakuza 3 came out in 2009, so it wasn't like early in the sense that it was like the first one, but it did take a couple of years before that game came out. But still, like it definitely does look significantly better, but even then, like it's not that much. Like I look at Yakuza 3, to me, it still feels like a recognizable game visually to the current idea that I have of a Yakuza game. Not exactly the same, obviously. The movements do feel a little bit more stilted, but still, like I still feel like it still feels like a relatively modern game, even if you wanted to look at the perspective of graphics as well as just the overall open world exploration, the amount of content. Like it just didn't it just, to me, never really made a lot of sense. And to be honest with you, a lot of the times I feel like the best arguments people were making for why Kiwami 3 needed to exist seems to mostly have to do with the AI of the game, some of the, like, mostly just gameplay elements, which I kind of understand, but at the same time, I feel like that to me that comes across as more of like having like a revisionist mindset of, hey, this game has flaws, let's remake it in order to fix it, which to me, I don't know, that doesn't really sit well to me. Like, and I do understand that this is a bit of a ideological difference, because I'm someone that, I do appreciate older games. I do appreciate game history. I am someone who always encourages, maybe not always, but I certainly do encourage, playing, consuming the original as they are. To me, Yakuza 3 is a product of its time and should be experienced as it is because it existed because of how and when and what led to what it currently is. I don't see a reason for why we should revise history, but I get that not everyone has that perspective. A lot of people think, hey, this is a good game, good story, good concepts. Why not remake it in the modern era and have like a better engine, better combat system? Why not? I get that. And I'm saying all of this, but like I do feel like, you know, Yakuza Kiwami 3 could potentially provide a better experience than I did in Yakuza 3. And honestly, after watching this trailer, I started thinking more and realized, you know what? There might actually be good reasons to have a Kiwami 3. For example, uh, Okinawa being remade in the Dragon Engine. That would be really fucking cool. Especially because Okinawa in Yakuza 3, one of the things that always kind of bothered me is just the fact that sometimes the game would just have like certain spots where the camera angles would get fixed, or we would have arbitrary invisible walls for no reason. And so if we can see less of that, I think it would be pretty nice. I don't know if they're gonna make the city bigger necessarily. I certainly hope that they don't create a lot of the same, area restrictions that they ended up doing when they make Kiwami 2, where, in Kiwami 2, there's like an entire park that's completely missing from Sotempori, which just, I don't know, felt really weird, but they did kind of fix that in which I think it was in Like a Dragon Gaiden, which is one of the reasons why Like a Dragon Gaiden is goated, because they made Sotenbori good again. But anyway, I think there's definitely some opportunities to make Okinawa a much more interesting place to explore. That is definitely one benefit. Um, Another thing is, after watching the trailer, it does seem like they're definitely they're adding like a new playing style. So there's, I don't know, if I think they call it like Okinawa style or something similar to that. That's gonna be pretty cool. I honestly, I just like having multiple styles for two reasons. One, attack variety, and two, opportunities for juggle. And juggle combos are always, fucking magical. Uh, Another thing about having a Kiwami 3 remake that I think is pretty nice, is again, it's the side content. And I don't know if in this trailer they show it, but during the RGT summit, they did show like they had like a few they did have like a sort of like a gang themed side quest that's kind of similar to what they've done in the previous game, where there were like clans and stuff like that. It seems like it was something kind of similar to that. So I'm certainly looking forward to, exploring for what it is, see what it has to offer. And I did see like I think they also might add new songs to karaoke, which, that's always a good thing. So there are definitely some new things to look forward to. And also, I guess I'm also a little bit more accepting of Dragon Engine remakes, just for the mere fact that, on a PlayStation 4, you did have to, deal with the fact that you had to run the game at 30 FPS, and you still probably will even in this game, because it is getting released for the PlayStation 4. So, cool, I guess. I mean, whatever. If you can port it there, sure, whatever. But I think the fact that I know I'll probably be able to play this at a 60 FPS frame rate on either the PS5 or PC, definitely does make some of the worries that I've always had with like the Dragon Engine being super heavy, maybe a little bit, eased out. Maybe I'm not as worried about that stuff. I did notice that they recasted some characters, and I've seen some people kind of mad about that, like Rikia here. Uh, I obviously would have preferred if they kept the original actor. I have to assume that, there's contractual reasons for why they weren't able to recast them. I don't know. I'll just accept it for what it is. Obviously, I would have preferred if they revived the original model and actor for Rikia, but it is what it is. I'm sure I'll probably get used to this face with time. So, it is what it is. And other than that, I think that's it. And also, during this trailer, we were also announced that we would get like I think something similar to the Majima saga in Kiwami 2. Hopefully, a bit longer. Not big. Hopefully, it's notably longer than that. Because honestly, if we're gonna get a remake of Yakuza 3, you might as well, spoil us with a new story. So yeah, we're gonna see like a side story with Mine, a fan favorite character. And honestly, at first I was like, oh, a story involving Mine where I get to play as Mine and explore him. That sounds pretty cool. But over time, I started to realize actually this might even be even better than my initial already positive impression on this, which is that a lot of the protagonists in the series that are specifically Yakuza, a lot of them became Yakuza at a very early age because they were at an extremely low point of their lives, even back when they were extremely young. Mine, on the other hand, he was an adult when he joined the Yakuza gang. Like prior to that, he was a normal quote unquote businessman, and so I think it will certainly be pretty interesting to seeing someone from his perspective kind of enter the Yakuza world and seeing it for what it is, seeing the goods and the negatives. One concern though, one really fucking big concern that I have is with this guy. I think his name is Kanda. Cause I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of a spoiler, but in the original Yakuza 3, this guy died and it was Mine that killed him. He killed him during a scene where he was fucking spiraling because things were going well with him and Kiryu. This guy is like someone who's very vengeful for the mere fact that Kiryu was one of the people that kind of made the Nishikiyama family, which he's a part of, kind of go downhill. And there's obvious like, actually, I don't even think it's just because of the fact that the family went downhill, because technically speaking, they were still a pretty powerful family. It's really just the fact that there's definitely bad blood between the Nishikiyama family and Kiryu, just for the mere fact that a lot of their patriarchs have bad beef with him. So, you know, he ended up breaking shit in Mine's apartment, and Mine ended up ordering his head to get chopped off, and yeah, he died. Like, it was a very cold assassination on the part of Mine. And the thing is, when you watch this trailer, there's like certain parts where these two are kind of like buddy buddies. Like there's even this one scene. Like there's this one scene where Kanda's like, actually wait, let me try to fucking rewind a little bit. I think it might be at an earlier scene. Like there's this scene where, wait, is this the correct one? Am I? Oh, there it is. There's this scene where Kanda just drive through these motherfuckers. They ran off, and then it was in Japanese, but I think he said like Mine, Bushika, which is like are you okay? They're clearly like partners in crime. Um, so I'm getting the impression that these two are kind of gonna be like you know partners throughout this uh side story. And what I'm concerned is that they're gonna build like a sort of friend, somewhat friend, like bro relationship between these two. And if that does happen, I don't necessarily mind that, because I do think it would make Kanda's death even more interesting. The fact that Mine just got his priorities so fucked and got his mind so corrupted beyond belief that he would even be willing to kill this guy who was at one point like pretty. No, they had their moments. They had their life and death moments when Mine was still joining the Yakuza group, and the moment he was able to surpass him in a lot of tears, and he started doing dumb shit, Mine was like, "Yeah, fuck you, I'm killing you." Like it does kind of make his death a bit more tragic, but given Ryuga Gotoku's track record of retconning certain deaths, I'm really concerned that they're gonna retcon this guy's death. I think I even saw a comment of someone being like, dude, once we get the game, they're gonna reveal that like it wasn't actually this dude's head. And man, if they do that, oh god, I really hope they don't fucking do it. But the problem is that I think they might. Because look, you guys heard like the quote unquote added scenes in the Yakuza 0 director's cut, which I'll get to that in a moment. But you guys have seen that. You guys have seen some of the deaths that they ended up undoing. Like, I really hope they don't do shit like that, because I think it kind of ends up making death kind of meaningless in this series. And honestly, it's not even just that. Like, it's not even just the fact that it makes death feel less meaningful. I just don't. I don't know, man. Like certain characters, is like they die, and you accept the fact that they die. their deaths feel, they have weight, they're tragic in the respective stories, and so to kind of undo them just feels kind of off. And in this case, I do think they have a pretty good opportunity to make a really tragic death. So I really hope they don't fucking undo that, because fuck, that would not make me very happy. I'm just telling you right now. So yeah, other than that, the game is 59 euros, so they're still making it like a $60 game, which is good, I guess. I mean, it is a remake, so if they charge fucking 70 for this, that's would have been really stupid. Uh, but regardless, Mine does look a little bit slimmer in this game, but that's fine. At least his face looks a little bit slimmer. I don't mind. Interestingly, I wonder how they're gonna handle Kashiwagi's death, because we now know at this point this guy didn't fucking die. So I don't know if they're gonna like, either redo the scene to make it seem a bit more, you know, up in the air as far as whether or not he died, or if they're gonna add like a scene where he's like escaping the fucking building or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, I am interested to seeing what they're gonna fucking do with this man over here, that the guy who just fucking refuses to die. And so yeah, I think that's all I have to share about Kiwami 3. Now let's talk about something else, which is the fact that they also announced that they would be porting Yakuza 0 Director's Cut, Kiwami 1, and Kiwami 2. Now, when I say port, I mean like porting to like the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and actually on PC. The only thing they would really be porting is the languages, and I guess I don't know if there would really be any upgrades with the Director's Cut as far as like graphically. I think it's mostly just adding the new scenes. Is what I assume they're gonna do. So yeah, it's fine. It's whatever. I'm okay with that. I have no idea what it'll be priced. I don't know if they ended up announcing it. I'll check on the website later. I do know that I saw an image where it seems like they are releasing a bundle that contains all three games. I think it's the essential pack or something like that. If that's the case, and they're all PS5 builds and they all contain the full game on the disc, I'm down to that. I don't know if they're actually going to include the full game on the disc, mainly because Yakuza uh Yakuza 0 and Yakuza Kiwami 1, let's assume that those two would be the one on the same disc. Or actually, wait. Maybe you would be I don't know. My main worry is that I don't know if they're gonna be like, the thing is, I have heard that sometimes games released for the PS5, they're a bit more compressed in terms of like the file size, just because the PlayStation 5 is able to decompress game data a bit more efficiently compared to the PlayStation 4. So I do hope that if they have any, file size challenges when printing this on the Blu-ray, they're able to solve, because I do want the full games on the disc. I don't want fucking codes like the fucking key card or whatever shit. That is not for me. I don't want to buy a disc that'll then require me to download a fucking patch. I don't want that shit. That is not something that I want. I think it's stupid. I don't think you should be buying these things. And I've made my stance pretty clear on that. I'm also wondering if people that already own these games, will they have an upgrade path to the PS5? I'm not entirely sure, because when they remastered the first Judgment game for PS5, you did have to buy the game again. So I don't know if they're gonna do the same thing here. I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, another thing I was concerned about is specifically with Kiwami 2, because when they say they're going to port that to the PS5, I have to assume that it's gonna come with graphical and frame rate enhancements. I hope so. I don't want it to be the same build, and to be fair, I don't think it will. But still, let's not hope that they're just gonna fucking make a lazy port. Hopefully. And yeah, I will buy it, to be honest. It kind of interests me. It is gonna get released before Kiwami 3, so I don't know. Maybe it might be a good opportunity for me to replay the series again on a PS5. It's gonna be weird. I did replay it on PC. I still think there are some reasons for why playing these games on PC is beneficial. Specifically with Yakuza 4, which at this point, I guess they might as well remake that game, which is fucking weird. It's weird to say that. But yeah, I mean, if they're gonna remake Yakuza 3, you might as well remake Yakuza 4, which I think that can be pretty interesting, to be fair. But yeah, I don't know. So far, I'm still of the belief that the Kiwami remakes are a little bit overdone. Like even Ishin, I don't think that was necessary. I think they should have just ported the original game to modern consoles, add an English, um, add English language to the subtitles and the menus. I guess also add the dub. Which, by the way, there is one thing I want to complain to Sega about. Um, Listen, I'm not here to fucking start a sub versus dub war. I'm not here to fucking make a big deal over Young Ye being Kiryu, even though I definitely do have my own fair share of opinions that are not very favorable towards him. At the end of the day, I don't really care that much. I don't play games with English dub. It's not gonna fucking matter to me. However, what really fucking annoys me is when you're watching the Ryuga Gotoku Summit and you're watching it on, you know, English platforms like the official Sega Asia channel that's in English, or the official Sega channel that's English, not even just for Asia, just the global one. And every single fucking trailer, and as well as just the overall, summit, is being dubbed in English. And when you try looking for trailers for Kiwami 3 that's not in Japanese, they're all dubbed. That annoys me. That kind of annoys me. I'm not gonna lie. It wasn't always like this. In the past, it wasn't like this. But I don't know. To me, I just want them to release a separate trailer in Japanese, but with English subtitles. It's not too much to ask. They were already doing that before. But for some fucking reason, every time I type Kiwami 3 trailer, I just can't. I'm just having trouble finding one that's voiced in Japanese and has English subtitles. Like for me, when I watched this trailer, I was kind of forced to just watch this without subtitles, because when I watch it with English dub, it just feels weird. Like it just feels weird hearing these characters with the fucking English dub. And honestly, in some ways, I think it's worse. Like it's not even just a case of elitism anymore. Like Mine's voice actor, I legitimately think he sounds worse in English. So yeah, that's also something I wanted to complain just a little bit. It's not so much of a big deal. Again, I don't watch anime dubbed, but I also don't play games. Well, not every game. Sometimes I do play with English voices, especially if that's clearly what the director was envisioning the game as. So yeah, that's all I want to share. I think that's pretty much all my thoughts, at least all of the thoughts that I care to share. I'm probably not going to pre-order this game because I do not have any fucking ounce of money.